Welcome back to Exposing It All podcast. This is episode 6.
6.
Yeah, episode 6. And today we're going to talk about marriage. Our marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're just going to jump right in and start from the beginning. It's just going to be like, we don't have a script or anything. We're just going to talk about our marriage and open dialogue. And I know a lot of people look at us and tell us all the time, like, we're strong, we're goals. They look at where we're at now and they don't know where we came from. They don't know the hardships of our marriage. They don't know all the things that we had gone through and all the things that we've overcome together.
Definitely that things that were hard in our lowest times that made us strongest together is where it would have broken people. It definitely made us stronger together. So definitely, there's some deep stuff, but something you don't share with everybody,
Yeah.
But we're gonna let you guys know a little bit about it. Some have heard some stories that we're gonna tell. Some have heard some of these things, and some have not. So
The good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful.
Yeah. Most definitely.
So I'll just kind of start by, we met at a graduation, actually. Back up a little bit. I think we said this. I always say that, back up a little bit, because I don't want to miss important details. We kind of grew up and knew of each other going to the same childhood church, but we didn't know each other, okay? Yeah. So we met officially at a graduation. I was already graduated. I went back to see my friends that graduated a year later with a very close friend of mine. And he was a guy. And we all went to the same church. We happened to run into David, and he sat with us, wanted to go to parties with us because, we were young, dumb teenagers, and we were going to go party together. And, we ended up hanging out afterwards, even though I didn't want him to hang out with us because I was very select with people that I hung out with. And, I just remember David just trying to, kiss up on me.
Yeah, I did. They had a persona of me. I was just like a good church kid and stuff like that, which I was. I didn't show my bad sides to everybody, but I definitely had you know, a rebellious side to me. And obviously being a close friend with the other person as well, like they knew I wasn't, the most perfect angel. But yeah, that night, definitely Sarah can touch more on that, but I'll definitely tell you my side of the story or my little tidbits about it. But yeah, she could continue on because definitely I was trying, pretty hard with Sarah because obviously she, people like to chase. So she wasn't giving in to any of my charm or anything or me trying to be sweet or like, hey, girl, anything like that. So there was a lot of banter back and forth, but you see the end result, obviously. But
Yeah.
there's some definitely in between some good stories and some fun things that she's going to share with you.
Yeah, so that was 2006. I know that we definitely, alcohol was involved. We don't want this to be hour-long podcast or anything like that, but obviously alcohol was involved. I had a fake ID at the time. I got alcohol for us. My friend's name was David as well. Our mutual friend actually was named David. They were having a sentimental moment at where we were hanging out. We couldn't go to parties because some people didn't like my friend David. That's just the truth of it. So we ended up going to a park. I had a nice car. At the time I had a brand new Pontiac Grand Am, and I was irresponsible and I would drive drunk, honestly. But I don't know, I would always sober up before I drove. That's not a thing, okay? That is not a thing to drive.
No.
I was irresponsible, but I thought I would drive great drunk. And nobody could drive my car, but everybody would try. David, of course, tried to drive my car, and I'll let him tell you the end result because he did try to chase me. He did try to kiss up on me. I was like, bro, don't you have a girlfriend? Whatever. But when he left, I'll let him tell you that part when he got out of my car and I took him home.
She wouldn't let me drive the car, so she drove me home. And our friend David sat in the front seat. I sat in the back seat. And on the when I got out, David let me out, and I leaned into the front seat, and Sarah had these puka necklace, like turquoise puka necklace on her shifter, and I grabbed the puka necklaces and I was like, "This is mine," and I threw a big old fat kiss on her. Threw a big old fat kiss on her, and she didn't pull back nothing either. So, she took that kiss, and I went on with my
There's
merry
only
little
so far
way.
you could pull back in the driver's seat. Just kidding.
Yeah, we'll fight that. Like I said, you see the end result, but you could fight it as much as you want. The truth of the matter is, like I always joke and say that I think I did love Sarah first because she had a lot of walls built up, I believe, from past relationships, and just the way that she was raised too. She like I said, what drew me to her was her confidence, her just her personality, just the person that she was, being able to just be hanging out with us and be herself, and she didn't have to you know do any of this. And like I said, the chase, she wasn't falling for my charm, and like, hey girl, let me drive a car, let me do none of this and of that. So it was just like I was attracted to that, and yeah, I didn't hear from her until my graduation later on
Yeah.
that year. And because I got her number that night, obviously I got the kiss, the puka shells, and the number, so winning, right? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so I ended up getting a text message, and I was like, Sarah Avila. Oh yeah, Sarah Avila from church. I was like, because she said congratulations on my graduation, and I was like, oh cool, yeah, thanks, appreciate it. And like she said, our parents went to church, so her dad would always ask about me, and my mom would always ask about her, and they would talk to us about them, like, oh hey, I saw Sarah today and she asked about you. And I was just like, oh well, that's cool, we'll tell her I said hello, because at the time I wasn't in church and Sarah was in church.
Yeah,
And
so like 2006, I was not. 2007, I wasn't. But like fast forward to 2008, I was like in church. So like I would see his mom all the time, and I loved that woman. I loved her style. Like I would always compliment her shoes in church, like everything. And I like that text was like the last time we ever talked until 2008. And I remember her like, oh, you should reach out to my son, like like I was like, yeah, maybe we could go to lunch. We could talk and like get him back in church. Like he needs Jesus. Like that was my goal. Like my goal was like he needs Jesus. Okay, like the way I am now, like that's how it was back then. Like he needs Jesus. And I think I did like send him a text message like, hey, how you doing? Or how you been? He's like, who is this? And we had some text messages back and forth. And I was like, yeah, you want to go to lunch? He's like, yeah, let's go to lunch. He remembered who I was, and we had like a conversation, and we ended up going to lunch. And when he showed up to my house, that's when he told me, well, hey girl, I ain't got no money, but we can go to lunch. And I was like, it's cool. Like I had my own apartment, like took care of myself. I was like, it's cool. And we went to lunch, and I remember him like trying to play footsie with me. And what did I tell you?
we were driving, obviously, I was like, let her know about my lifestyle too. I was like, obviously you're in church, let you know that I smoke, I drink, and things of that sort. So and I didn't have any money to go to lunch, but I wanted to go to lunch. So, we took her car, and we're sitting in the car, and I'm trying to hold her hand, and she's like, are you trying to hold my hand? And I was like, yeah. And she's all, well, don't. And I was like, oh, dang. All right, here it is again. That's strong, that strongness. So we even get to the restaurant, and it's one of our mutual friends we knew as well that was working there. So we get lunch, sit across from each other, and I'm trying to play footsie with her. And she's like, are you trying to play footsie with me? And I was like, yeah. And she's all, well, don't. And I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is she's really hard. Like, she's hard to get, like playing hard to get. I like the chase. So, yeah, the lunch went well. And it was, there's a funny part to the other side of the me showing up at the front door, but I don't know if Sarah wants to talk about all that, because when I tell it, it's much better. But because I asked later on, what did you think of me when I first came to the door?
I didn't tell him for years though, like
Yeah.
years. Like
So,
after we were married,
but I do it.
I didn't tell him for years because my famous saying was, I don't chase feelings, I chase paper. So like even when I dated people, I was like, I don't chase feelings, I don't chase papers. Like I don't chase feelings, I chase paper, don't get attached.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like don't get attached to me.
Like
'Cause
she wanted me bad, okay? Because this is what I said, babe. So just tell me the truth. Like when I came to the door, I was looking good. Like, tell me what you thought. And she's like, I saw you pull up, and because she lived on the third floor, and she's like, I saw you pull up, and I looked outside, and I was like, Lord, please help me fight the temptation because he looks so good. And I was like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. So I was like, yes, yes,
Oh,
like play that card, but I knew it. So
he
you
loves
know,
that. I mean, it's true. Like it is. I didn't tell him for years, but I literally looked and was like, "Oh my god!" Like I remembered what he looked like. I knew what he looked like. We exchanged photos too, and that's kind of a funny thing too, because like back in the day, be like, "Send me a picture,"
yeah,
and
send
he
me a
like sent
photo.
me a picture because he has a tattoo on his back, and he sends me a picture of his tattoo, right? And so I sent him a picture, and I'm all like, just like a picture, like he's like,
Okay, okay, we can
"Oh,
go with that. It's
okay."
cute. Save those
She's
pictures.
definitely a church
We
girl
got
again.
pictures of each
Like,
other. So that's what I was like,
okay.
I'm getting the vibes. I wasn't trying to send like, you know, vulgar pictures or anything like that, but it was just like, cute little picture. Show you my, my back tattoo. Show me like whatever, like
And literally, this is a black and white photo,
I was
mom.
just like, is this like your high school photo or something? Like, what is this?
No, it was not.
But yeah, that was pretty fun.
But
So that was definitely the early stages of us getting together, dating. My favorite story to tell, I'm going to tell you now.
leave me
Of course. Well, yeah, Sarah, like I said, she had her own apartment, she had her own car, she had the attraction, she had, a whole bunch of things that were like just that I'd never seen in other girls that where she had it all together. She had maturity, she had her stuff together, she had her own apartment, but it wasn't just the facts of what she had. It was like I said, how she carried herself. So we hung out and we were dating, and it was probably like 2 or 3 week, maybe a month into our dating, and we're at our favorite Chinese food restaurant, sitting across the table from each other. Of course, I got my lo mein, I get my tea, I got my other little soda drink, feeling all good. Yeah, just she's quiet. She's just so quiet. So she like slides this 4-page letter
it
over
was
to me,
not four
right?
pages.
It was
I say this all the
it
time.
is
It is
four
not
four
four
pages front and
pages.
back. All
I
right.
wish I
So
had the letter.
no, I probably still do somewhere, but it's 4 pages front and back. She slides it over to me, and I start reading it. Some of these words. Oh, we live in different lives, and we should not be together. And I was like, whoa, whoa, hold up, girl. Like, we live in two different lives. I know I told you about my lifestyle, but whatever you want me to do, girl, I'll change because I want you. And she's like, all right, we'll see. And from then on, it was me to prove myself. And like I said, I think that, at that time, she was being honest to herself, and saying like, hey, I don't think that this is something, because we didn't do anything, other than, it wasn't getting too far, but it was just like there was a part to where she was like, hey, I can see that this is, you're living this way, I'm living this way, it's not going to mix very well. So but the beautiful thing was that we had the roots of being raised in the church. Like she mentioned, I went to that church since the fourth grade. Sarah lived across the street from it her whole life, so she pretty much went to the church her whole life too. But
It
that to
was a
say
chase.
the fact that yeah, I did chase, and like I said, I think not think, but I know I loved Sarah first, and I had to because she needed to feel that. She needed to know that somebody was chasing her and loving her, and she had to accept that, and I think she did at those times. Obviously she did. So we were dating a little bit longer, and then it became us, just being closer as like friends. We grew together. We'd hang out, go to lunch. Like I'd meet her at work. Sometimes it was to borrow $20 for gas, or it was like, hey, let's just get together and grab lunch if you're in this area, or whatever it was. And then it was just growing us together. We ended up like
Yeah.
living together. Like I moved in
And a lot of
for
people
a little
think
bit.
because we lived together, like there was like immediate intimacy, and there
No,
there
there
wasn't
wasn't.
even that. Like
It was definitely
it was a while.
it was a thought, I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, like this girl made me work so hard and all this stuff. But no, if it was that easy, then it wouldn't have been worth it. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it
Yeah.
goes with that. But she was true to herself, and So it wasn't just a right away thing, and it was definitely us building a relationship. And like I said, we lived together for about a couple months or so, and
Like 6 months, I want to say.
yeah, and then and we ended up having to move out of the
Yeah, my lease was
apartment.
up and they wanted to charge. I lived in this really nice neighborhood in a loft apartment. And at the time it was $550. Like $550, but it was such a beautiful loft apartment. You walked inside, there was a living room, a kitchen, full size washer and dryer, bathroom, then you'd go upstairs and that was the bedroom and then a walk-in closet. It was such a beautiful loft apartment, nice neighborhood. But they wanted to increase my rent to like 700, and I was like, I'm not paying $700. And like $700 seems like nothing nowadays, right? When you pay like $3,500. But I was like, no. My parents were like, you guys could stay here in our house until you find something new. So we're like, okay. So we moved out and went to my parents' house. And that's when David had decided he was going to ask my dad if he could marry me. And this is in 2008 because we were together for a total of 9 months before we got married. And it was before my birthday. He asked my dad if he could marry me. And we were already in my parents' house, what, like a couple of months? I want to say a couple months we were in my parents' house already.
Yeah.
And we were looking for an apartment, and we just couldn't find anything within our price ranges um, that we wanted to
Because
move.
only
And
one income at the time.
yeah, because it was just my,
I was trying to work. I was finding odd end jobs. I was working here and there, working for temp agencies, like trying to do my best
yeah.
to get up and rise up. Because I was like, man, I'm not afraid of work. I'll go find a job and work, take anything that I can get, and
And
just try to find something.
I
So
had a good job at the time, but I was in payday loan management at the time, and they were about to go under. So that's the other reason we moved too,
yeah,
and with my parents because
because
they were about to go under, and they said I could stay on or I could take a severance, and I didn't want to take a severance because there was a chance that I could move into the company they got bought out by. So I didn't want to take severance, and I also didn't want to risk re-signing a lease also because I worked at Visa when we first met, and then I took this payday loan position as a manager. And so right before they went under and were going to get bought out, we kind of like stayed there. And I remember in November, that's when David asked my dad if he could marry me. And he proposed to me on my birthday.
yeah, and
And we were
let's look
having
back behind that too. Like
but
Sarah also went with me to because like I said at the time I was working a temp agency. I wanted to get her a ring, something special.
oh,
So
yeah.
I went to the diamond exchange, and that's a little cool story too as well. So I went with her. She went with me to get her engagement ring, and I was like, I have X amount of dollars. And I went to the jewelry exchange place and I told them what I had, and they're like, "Oh, you have," and I was like, "No, I have this much." And they're like, "Oh, okay, come down all
Yeah.
the way over here and get your magnifying glass out." And but I wanted it to be a real diamond. I wanted it to be something special that she could hold on to forever. She picked it out, and I asked her to marry me in front of like our most important people. I believe her parents were there, my mom was there, my
No, my
brother.
parents didn't come.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
we
it was,
wanted them to
yeah,
be
they
there,
didn't
but
come, but his
her
mom was
brother,
there, her brother, my brother, and his wife, because at the time I was very, very close to my brother. He was like
yeah.
another father figure to
And
me. And
so special people to us were there, and I asked her to marry me, and I said, Sarah Ann Avila, will you do me the pleasure of becoming Sarah Ann Rodriguez? And she said yes, of course. Um, but yeah, it wasn't your typical way of doing things. We always
yeah,
did everything like kind of
non-traditional.
yeah,
That's why we're
most one
sharing
hundred
a lot
percent
of this.
non
It's like,
traditional ways, and that built to be what the beautiful things that we do have here today. So we always look
yeah.
back at that. Um, you know,
After and during, like, after we got engaged though too, like, just to back up a little bit, like when we were living at my parents' house, like we started to have like problems. Like my car was like pretty much being run into the ground because before I went back to church, I was partying. One time I decided I was just gonna drive to Mexico. I didn't maintenance my Pontiac Grand Am. Like I drove my car into the ground. So like I wasn't maintaining it. So it was on the verge of repo, and that's another reason why we didn't, like, I made such good money. I worked at Visa and then I got this management position, but it was on the verge of going under. So we were living at my parents' house, and we were like, we need to find another apartment. Dave was looking for another job. And then we had a lot of things going on, even though we were doing things so non-traditional. We were like, oh, we're going to get married and we're going to figure this out, right? And then 3 days after I get engaged, I go to a doctor's appointment. They tell me, oh, I have a history of polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it was severe since I was 12. I've had cyst rupture. I was on medication. Like, it was severe. They were like, the chance of you getting pregnant are like 0.1%. Yeah. And I remember going in on Friday and we were like, now we're engaged. We're going to see, like, can I be put on Clomid? Because Clomid is a fertility medication to help your body naturally get pregnant. So, of course, they do their whole protocol. You have to go get a pregnancy test, etc. I wasn't on birth control because I had already gotten off of it. And what happens? I walk in, I do my test, I'm waiting in the room, and the doctor, I've had the same OBGYN since I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and he actually delivered all four of our kids. But I remember
13 years old. How old were you?
12.
12 when you
Yeah, he actually delivered me. From what I understand, he delivered me. And he didn't look his age at all. So when I first got diagnosed at 12, he was already seeing me. So he opens the door and he was like, David went, we were having problems with the car. So David had to go because valet could not park our car. So David was not in the room with me and he had to go out and like jump the car, get it jumped or something. The doctor comes in. He's like, well, I guess we don't have to do Clomid. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's positive. And I was like, I started bawling. I was like, there's no way. We just got engaged. We just got, like, we had talked to our pastor. He had asked my dad, like, we were going to get married. Plus, we're in church, you know. Like, yeah, we live together, but, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And I was, like, crying. And I remember going outside. Like, that was the end of my appointment. Like, literally, he's like, okay, well, let's schedule a follow-up visit. We'll get an ultrasound, all this. Like, literally, I was in there for maybe 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, I found out I was pregnant. And I come outside crying.
And I went to go get the vehicle, like Sarah said. I told the lady at valet, I was like, tell my wife, that my fiance, that I'm going to get the vehicle, and that I'll be waiting for her outside. So Sarah comes outside and she's like crying. So I'm like initially thinking, we went there for like a checkup. Does this mean that like there's, some polyps or anything that going on with her PCOS or anything like that? So I'm like, what is going, like, why are you crying? Like, what's like, not why you're crying, but like, what's the like, is there an issue with your PCOS or anything like that? And she's like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, are you serious? I'm so happy. Like, I'm happy. And she, of course, was just like dreadful, like, not that we were pregnant, but just like that everything was happening
like,
at the same,
my gosh,
all at once, right?
Yeah,
But
we just got engaged. Yeah.
Oh, watch out! Look, what do we do now? Of course, you're young and you don't know what to expect either. But you being young parents, so yeah, I was excited. I was engaged to.
We were 21. Girl, yeah,
about to have my baby. So we then we had to start planning our wedding.
We went to our pastor and we were like, hey, and this is the really cool part too, is like David was like, let's go and talk to our pastor. Yeah. And if our pastor says we can get married, we'll get married. But if he doesn't feel like we should get married, like, I will be the best baby daddy ever.
And literally,
because we wanted to be in the will of God. Yeah. Like, we didn't want to just be like, oh, we're pregnant, we're getting married. Like, we never wanted that ever from the very beginning, because we were pregnant.
People think or whatever to save face for either one of us, it wasn't that fact. It was deeper than that. It was the fact of like, I truly went in there with my heart saying, if this man of God ordains us to be married, then we will be married. And if not, then I'm going to be a father and be the best baby daddy to you that I can be, So those are my, in the, off the top of my head, just like what my true heart feelings were. And he did say that he couldn't marry us because he had some other
he was out of town
prior engagements, or he was out of town
because we were going to move it up to December, because I was like, we were going to get married in the springtime. We're like, there's no way I'm going to be
in December. Nobody, like, that's Christmas time. So he had another pastor that was a young pastor that was going to marry us. So we're like, all right. So we started planning it. And like Sarah said, it was around December 20th. December 20th is our anniversary, our wedding date. So we started planning, literally together, me and her.
Because we found out November 7th I was pregnant. We talked to him that following Sunday, and I asked my mom, like, if she'd go with me to look at a dress. Like, she told David, like, I'll help you pay for it.
She'll go. But we did everything for it.
non-traditional, and
I
I
went with
didn't
Sarah to pick out her dress, like literally.
I had friends, but I didn't have really close friends because at the time I wasn't partying anymore, and a lot of my friends are partying. And if they weren't teen moms and already had their kids, then they weren't having kids. They were still partying, and they weren't necessarily in church. Or the ones in church were like, "Oh, she's pregnant," like it was more of like we were kind of in that between place where we didn't have people that were living the life that we lived. We were just 21. Like
Yeah.
that was a you were either partying, living your best life, or you were still just trying to figure it out. So there wasn't people who were getting married at that age. So we did everything non-traditional, and that's a part of why we're like sharing a little bit of our background. Because to go look at my dress and try on my dress and find my dress, David was with me.
Yeah, I
Helped
was
me
with
pick
her.
out my dress. Like he was there the entire time to go get his tux. I was with him. Like we didn't have bridesmaids. We didn't have people who supported us. Like some people at church did help us with like decorations. They did help us because they were so happy for us or whatever. And even for our little party favors, like us and a couple of our cousins, our nieces, helped us put our own party favors together. Like we paid for everything to go on our cake. We had somebody at the church who was like, hey, for my parents, they would donate the cake, but we had to buy the fresh roses for it.
Yeah.
Or we had to buy certain things. And there were some people, like our families cooked the food, like our parents, like my parents cooked the food, his mom, his aunt, like people cooked the food for our wedding. It wasn't traditional. Like majority of the stuff we paid for it. Like
Yeah.
nobody paid for our wedding.
What is it, like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks? We
Yeah.
planned our own wedding and made it happen
Everything.
between the
And
both
if
of
you've
us
seen our wedding
with the help
pictures,
of other people and things
yeah.
like that. So we are grateful for the people that did help us. So don't take that the wrong way. We are super grateful for the people that did help us. But for like the most part, we didn't have a wedding planner. We didn't have all these other people. Sarah didn't have her bridesmaid just right there doing everything
Yeah.
for her, getting her hair done. Like Sarah's mom did her hair
A
for
friend
her.
volunteered
And
to
a
take
friend,
photos for
yeah.
us.
So
Like he knew how to take excellent photos and
yep.
took pictures for us. Like photography, like most people like, oh my gosh, you planned this wedding, because it was a beautiful wedding. Like in short notice, it was a small wedding, intimate wedding.
It was special.
But
the most part, people were there, people that mattered most to us. It was a little. There will be like more of my family that was there, I guess,
yeah,
and less of Sarah's family that was there, and that's just because I don't think that they knew me at the time or wanted to support that marriage at that time. So, um,
and the closeness, like I didn't have like I wasn't close with my siblings. Like
yeah.
I said in the first podcast as well, like I was born into a toxic family, and clearly I understand why now. Like I didn't have a very tight knit family, so I wasn't close to my siblings. And if my brother didn't show up, that was there when we got engaged, I was close to not getting married because that was like my second father figure. But he showed up at the last minute, and
Yeah.
it was great. But like we're sharing this because we want to share why we're like why and how we got to this point, and like it doesn't mean we didn't have hardship. So like of course you have the wedding. And then what happened after the wedding? We bring a baby into it. And not only do we bring a baby into it, but we bring a premature baby into it.
Yeah.
Our son, I got severe preeclampsia. I had to give birth very early on. He was premature, but what's so miraculous about him being premature is that he didn't have a single issue wrong with him.
No.
They said his lungs wouldn't develop. He would had so many illnesses spoken over his life. But you want to know what? They didn't even keep that baby for 5 days. He didn't have to be in the NICU, nothing.
Seriously?
He was 5 pounds. But you want to know what? He was perfectly healthy. The only thing I didn't understand at the time is because I wasn't raised that way. My mom was molested as a child, so she didn't nurse us. She only gave us formula. So I didn't know nothing about nursing like David's family did. But at that time, there was still like that disconnect between families because like we truly say we were like, even though the Romeo and Juliet story was not like the best, the way the families were against each other, that's kind of how ours were. So we didn't have like the tightness from our families either. So like I wasn't willing to receive like, oh, I should nurse my child. I did pump for him, but they immediately gave him formula because his blood sugar was low. But other than that, he was completely healthy baby.
Yeah, they were kind of made it like a scare to us, like 'cause
Yeah.
parents are like, if you don't feed this child, then he's not gonna give
He's
it.
not going to grow.
And I'm just like, what? Like, of course, I thought of
Yeah.
the breast, like give the breast, and like I said, that wasn't Sarah's initial thought. So they're like, we have formula, so they gave formula to Ezekiah, and he ended up having to be on the most expensive formula. So
Yeah, because
our
he
niece
was
called him Young Similac because he had the most
the most
expensive.
expensive like imported formula because he does have a peanut allergy, but like
Yeah, like,
I
that
won't
was
go
just
down that rabbit hole. I don't think it's because of how he was born. I do think
no.
that that's because of things they put in your body
Yeah, it
at a young age.
definitely
But
was different.
like he definitely was. He ended up being healthy. We went home in 5 days, and everybody's like, "What? You just had a premature baby?"
We were even in
And
church, like with the
yeah, we went
pregnancies
to
and
church
stuff.
with him, like premature. They're like,
We
"Go
didn't know what
home.
else to do. We were
He
like,
is
let's go
too
to church.
little."
Let's go.
And everybody's like, "Don't bring him to church. Like, don't bring him out in public." And David was super protective, like, "Don't touch his head," like super protective.
Yeah, of course not.
But like we had just gotten our apartment too
Yep.
before he was born. Like I went to work. I was working. I had moved on obviously from the payday loan company. I was working in account management at the time, and I remember my boss telling me his wife had preeclampsia. That's how I knew. He was like, "I'm not like checking you out or anything, but your feet are really swollen." He's
And they're
like, "Come here."
kicking.
He's like,
Yeah.
"I'm not going to touch you, but will you touch your foot?" And I touched my foot and it pitted. He's like, "Call your doctor." My wife had that. And sure enough, that day when I went to the doctor's, when he was like, "Go to the hospital," I couldn't even go home, get nothing.
Yeah.
They sent me directly to the hospital to be induced because my preeclampsia was so bad and our lives were at risk. But moving on from that, I remember us just getting our apartment 2 days before he was born. So my parents, like both of our, like David's mom and my parents scrambled to get us a car seat because my baby shower wasn't even going to be for 2 more weeks. Yeah. And so we brought our son to his baby shower because we didn't have a stroller, we didn't have a car seat, we had nothing. We had just moved into our apartment. So my parents went and got a crib. David's mom went and got us a car seat so that way we could bring the baby home. My parents got a stroller, like set everything up so we could go home and be ready and like set our room up for us so we could go home. Yeah. And just be like parents because we had just moved in. We weren't even prepared for that. And then I returned to work 6 weeks later. I didn't know about pumping at work, so I only pumped while I was at home for the baby. I didn't know nothing with my first child. I felt like he was a test dummy. Like, I know it sounds terrible. Like, he laughs about it too because the other three were like totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. But, like fast forward to 2011, like we're new parents. We're barely married and there's things in our life like we're still so young, like we're still maturing, like we're still growing, and we're trying to get acclimated. We're like, do we want more kids? What do we want to do with our lives? We start going through the whole, like, I don't know what you want to call it, jealousy or insecurity, like doing things that like make each other not necessarily feel good or not. Like we'd go to the gym and we fight about the small things, like the dumb stuff. Like, let's be honest, like we fight about dumb stuff. And like we did have a domestic violence when our son was little. We did have to separate,
Yeah, and that was definitely a low part of our lives, low part for me as well. So there was some separation as well, and that was just like definitely hard because here at having our baby and everything like that, and being separated from him and Sarah was rough. I did end up having to go through procedures of the courts and domestic violence classes and all that stuff. So initially, I was going through the classes and I was just trying to breeze right through them. Like, oh yeah, cool, this is whatever. I'm here. I'll show up, get a participation award, and you know, move on. But during that time, I was still actively smoking. And you obviously, when you're on a probation period like that, you cannot do so. So we're like Sarah said, we were still just living, doing life, and yeah, I was not being true to um my course and getting better for myself or better for my family. And there was an incident where Sarah was scared by my actions. Like I didn't do anything physically to her, but just my actions and anger scared her. And long story short, I ended up having to do UAs that were monitored at a halfway house. So um, during that time, before that time actually, I thought I was getting away with it, because at the time the UAs I was doing was at that facility where they didn't monitor me at all. So I was just, like I said, making my way through it, faking it. But as I, did get caught in that time, I did stop and was real to myself and true to myself, and said, all right, well, I'm going to be real for myself and stop smoking and be true to this class. And I wanted to change for myself and for the better of our family that we just started. So I was one of the only ones that was still with my partner at the time. Everybody else was separated, so it was just standing alone. Like I said, everything we did was just totally different. So I went through the class. I put everything into it to make myself a better person. Not proud of the things that occurred, but I definitely went through them and came out a better person. I'm not defined by my past.
Right.
Definitely doesn't define the person that I am today, but it helped mold me to be the person that I am today. Like I said, I'm not proud of those things. Don't tell everybody about that. Even think about, Hezekiah. I don't think I've ever sat him down and told him those things either, to, say that I put hands on his mother or anything like that. Because that's rule number one. You don't ever do that. And it was a devastating thing to, her family, my family, my mom, say, hey, I never raised you like that. You shouldn't, why would you do that? And it was just a bad situation that didn't get taken care of like the way it needed to. We were not mature enough to take care of it like we should have or needed to. But like I said, those lows brought us stronger together, because soon after that, well, a couple years later after that, we were working, we had jobs and we were working together, but we ended up becoming homeless, and we ended up having to be in another lower part of our lives,
Yeah.
to where we,
I lost that accounting job that I was working, and oh man, when I think about those times, we actually made probably more money than we make now, and we probably should have a lot more to show for it than we do. Like, we live so far beyond our means, and doing what? I don't even know. Like, shopping. Our son had more clothes and
living,
shoes than he could even wear. We were just living our life. Like, at the
thinking we
time
could
we
make up
would
for it.
gamble. At the time we would just blow money. At the time we just had nice cars. That even sometimes we'd skip the payment for no reason. Nice like we had nice things, but
Yeah, and even the
we
rent we
weren't
paid
responsible.
wasn't so big to where it
We
was out
we
of
paid like
control.
$800 or $900
It was like
rent, or
900.
we even went through a phase when we had our domestic violence. We even went through a phase because of our domestic violence where somebody paid our rent for. It was supposed to be 6 months, but this place ended up paying it for
Yeah,
two
because we needed
years.
help,
And you
so we
want to
went
know
and
what we
got help.
did?
We
We
didn't
took
save.
advantage of
We
it.
didn't
We didn't
save. We didn't
save.
think about
We
being
weren't
smart.
smart. We'd be
We
going
were
to the
like,
mall, shopping, blowing money, or like David smoked at the time, so he'd just buy extra weed, whatever, and just dumb stuff, like living so far beyond our means. So when the time came in 2013, our son was what, maybe 4, and we weren't prepared. We didn't have savings. We didn't have credit. We didn't have credit either. So we didn't have savings. We didn't have credit. We didn't have nothing like that. And we became homeless. My parents had a big enough house at the time where they could have housed us. They could have given us a room. They could have helped us again. But you want to know what? My parents were like, you're married. You got a child. Figure it out. They didn't say it like that, but my mom kept pushing me off like, oh, we'll clean it up. Clean up a room when we get ready. We'll clean up a room. Because she just had stuff. I've talked about it before. Um, and I may or may not have talked about it in the podcast yet, but I definitely share like on my Instagram and stuff how like my mom just had new stuff. She was it was part of like her trauma. I think she had new stuff. So like some rooms would just be full of new stuff. So it's like you couldn't put a bed in there. She'd have to literally clean it out so somebody could stay in there, whatever. And she kept telling us like, oh, clean it out, whatever. We ended up staying with David's mom, and it was not really safe to stay with her because she was on disability and housing, and
yeah.
she
So
wasn't
she had
supposed
a
to have
one
anybody
bedroom
there. A one
apartment,
bedroom.
and that was rough for Ezzy, but he loved it because he thought we were just
He thought we were on
Nani
vacation.
with, we get to spend the night at Nani's every night, and we're having fun, and
We
we knew
lost
it
our
was rough
house,
on him. So
our cars,
when we had, we were working at the time, and I took a job that was like paying me like $8 an hour to be
working
like
60
60
hours
hours a
just to.
week. It was stressful, but I was willing to do whatever it took. And, we would take Ezzy on the weekends to like a hotel, the Holiday Inn on the, down the way. And then just like have a bed and breakfast and then, swim all night with him. And he'd wake up and he'd be like, let's go do that again. Let's go swimming at the hotel. He just thought it was a vacation. We wanted to make sure that Ezekiah didn't feel any more, trauma than he had to feel towards this situation. And we tried to make the best for him. And I don't think he even remembers that because we tried to make that the best transition for him. And at the time, Sarah was working at the plumbing and heating place where we both got.
But not initially. Oh. Initially, I was just at home taking care of him. And then we had the nerve to think, like, do we want another kid? Like, do we want another baby? Like, maybe we should have another baby. In the midst of us, like, not even having our life together. We had no cars. We had no cars. We lost our cars, okay? We were borrowing cars. Like, my parents' car, I think, at the time. We had no cars. I didn't have a job yet. David was working at this job where he's working 60 hours. And I'm like, we could get like government assistance. Like, and we had the nerve to think that we wanted another baby as well. And it was like probably like the worst time. And I don't remember like
it was worse, like to where again we were down in this depths to where like I came to Sarah and I was like, you know what, like we're in this hole together. Me and you are in this pit together and we keep digging this hole down. And that's not doing you any good. That's not doing me any good. I got you, which is all I got. And you got me, which is all you got. So let's take each other and rise up out of this hole and get up out of it. And that's what I mean, like by taking that job of getting paid $8 an hour and working 60 hours a week. Well, it was a money for my family, for my own vices, for everything. And Sarah started looking for a job. And
that's when I found the plumbing and heating job. And then we started like seeking God again after that. I remember us like actually seeking God. I met this girl in my job. Like we weren't of the same faith, but we had a similar belief. And I really remember us finally like, that's when we kind of found each other and we knew we only had each other because we didn't have family support. Our family was just like, we would even fight with our family during this time. Like I would say things that would get me in the worst of trouble. Like I always am just like, if I will say the things that nobody wants to say. Everybody could be thinking it, but I will say it. And it gets me in trouble sometimes because the truth is not always comfortable, but I stand behind my word. Like, I'm not going to say I didn't say it. I'm not going to, but I would say things and we'd get in these fights, but then we just kind of started to seek God and God started opening doors. And so eventually, as I'm at this plumbing and heating company, I was able to bring David in. And at this plumbing and heating company, more doors opened. And while we were homeless, we started looking for another place because we started to establish ourselves. I was quickly promoted because of my capabilities, because of my skills, my education. We were no longer pursuing having another child either at that time. And we were just like working, trying to get ourselves out of this hole. We finally got another car and David was working here. So we're like growing, right? This woman that we met at this job, we found a place. And I was like, man, how am I going to come up with this money? I was working overtime. Like I was working 6 days a week because we were only open 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. I could only work 6 days a week. Working 6 days a week. David was working overtime there when he could. And at the time we weren't like working side jobs, but we were doing the best that we could to work overtime at this one job because we only had the one car. And this woman one day at this job was like, you know what? How much do you need for that deposit? And I was like, $1,400. She's like, all right. And that's all she said. The next day I walk into work. There's a Wells Fargo envelope on my desk and was like, go sign your new lease. And it was enough money for my deposit and 1 month's rent. She had given me $2,800 cash to give us the deposit and money for our new house. And we were able to move. And from there, we grew in this company for a while because we were there for a couple of years. And then I've had weight loss surgery because I was like, okay, now we're ready to have another baby. But maybe after I, get rid of this PCOS because we couldn't get pregnant anyways. And then I got pregnant really quick, which was not expected. I mean, it wasn't like unplanned. Okay. Like we always say, like it wasn't expected, but it wasn't unplanned. So then we get pregnant, and in that process, after we move, like 2015 rolls around, and that's when my mom gets sick and dies. And then I decide, like, am I gonna stay like, who's gonna watch the baby? Like, that's when David's like, you can stay at home.
Yeah.
And I have been at home since. And yes, I work full time from home now, but I didn't work from full time from home initially. I stayed home for a full year. I helped my dad, and like, but that's our homelessness is where we found ourselves. That's where we rooted ourselves.
We
And
definitely cling to each other and use each other to be. We realized how strong we
stronger
were together, and
instead of working against each
like,
other.
how people say, like, you see the best in other people. Well, she saw the best in me and brought it
Yeah.
out. I saw the best in her and brought it out, and that's where we just grew, and it gave us enough, juice to keep pushing. Like, yeah, at the time when she wanted to stop working and stay home, yeah, she was definitely going through a lot, and I was working steadily and didn't mind working. I was working and hustling and doing all the things that I could do, working, hours and side jobs, whatever I could get to get us up. And especially with us having another baby on the way, all that stress, the things that she was going through, the loss of her mother.
And then it was like life fell apart again. And this is what's crazy is, like, we grew and life came together. And then when my mom died, it was like life fell apart again. Like,
Yeah.
I was not only about to give birth to another child, but our son was struggling in school. I was taking care of my dad. And then we have our beautiful baby, and I go through, boom, bad postpartum anxiety. But then 6 weeks later, I find out I'm pregnant again. And I was devastated. Like, I wasn't like I wasn't. I was devastated. I was so scared. I was like, there's no possible way. Like, I'm nursing this baby. Like, I'm on birth. I was on birth control. I was like, there's no possible way I could be pregnant. I was devastated. Well, then, like, I couldn't take care of my dad anymore. And then my dad goes, starts going through addiction, going to jail, etc., loses our family house. And then me and David are like, let's take care of your dad. And so then 2018 comes around, and we have two little babies, and we have our son, who I'm like now homeschooling because school just was not the best for him.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we have like a connection, but we don't have a connection. Like, we're together, but we're not together. And I share this because a lot of people see us now, and like I always say, like, we're a dynamic duo, but we went through literal hell to get here.
Yeah, definitely.
And
put in the work to stay with it. Like I said,
yeah,
people that came through our circumstances would not stay together and have not stayed together through our circumstances. So I definitely think that is a test of the time that we were able to put in the work to stay together. And that's what made us be what we are. It's not just because, we just got put together and had this fairy tale setting that everything is just going together, and that's not true. We truly wanted it to work and made it work and pushed through it, the hardest times and the best times, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we made the best of them. And it was always just us, us fighting for each other, fighting for our children, fighting for things that we never had, things
and
that
then before we moved in 2018, I shared in the podcast, the second podcast, about how I went to jail because of my son not doing well in school, and like going to jail for spanking him in 2017. Like, I shared about that. So we had that happen in the midst, and David having to take care of the baby, and her, because she was a strictly nursed baby.
Yeah, that was
like we went through that in the process. And then we take care of my dad, who's also like struggling with addiction at the time because of losing my mom, of being married over 30 plus years, not knowing how to deal with it, in and out of jail. And here I am with babies at the time, and I'm working as a night dispatcher, like babies, and I'm taking care of children, 3 children, homeschooling, working as a night dispatcher, also taking care of my father, going to courts, jails, etc. during the day. We take care of my father. We move into this house in 2018, and we're like, okay, life is coming together again. Like, we're together, like we're in church, we're like doing things, and then we have like church things happen. Like, we move from one church to another, and then we move back to the other church, and then things happen again with my dad, to where, like, devastating things. And we have to, our whole life falls apart again. Not only that, but I get pregnant again. And I cry and I'm like devastated and I'm like, what is going on? Oh my gosh. Like we had
Every
three
time
other,
I was happy.
he
Like I
was
was
happy
not.
every
I
single
was.
time, but I'm
Trust me, I
like,
was not the one crying. I was happy. I knew what
they
we were
told
doing,
me I
and
couldn't
I'm
have
happy
babies,
for
and
it.
here I am on birth control trying everything. Like David always says, it's not like we weren't trying, but at the same time, there were preventative measures
And
in
I
place as well
understand from
because we
Tara's
had the
perspective as a woman, like being like all the things that she did to so don't be like she didn't want to have kids. It
yeah
was just not the time that she had wanted
yeah
things to happen.
exactly
She tried to allow things to happen for her life, but then God said, you know what, you're gonna have these babies, and like said you weren't
yeah.
gonna have no babies because it was 6 years uh, when
Which were our first
between
two are 6 years
Hezekiah and
apart. Yeah.
Briella, and then Briella and Koda were 11 and a half months, so they're Irish twins, and then Michi, which
Yeah.
was the biggest surprise. She had like 6 pregnancy tests she took. She called me crying, and I was like, "What are you
I didn't
crying
believe it till
for?"
I saw
Like,
an ultrasound. Like
she's like, "I'm
I
pregnant,"
was,
and I said, "I'm happy," and this was just like the way our lives went. And like she said, we had to again going through the ups and downs and the valleys.
and in
We
2018, like we also went through stuff like not only through like, okay, here I am taking care of 202 and a homeschooling, going through stuff with my dad,
There was a lot
and
that year
a lot
too.
of like stuff going on with like David has like job opportunities, but also job losses. And then we also have marriage stuff. Like you have like, just to be candid, like we have this connection, but we don't have this connection. So what do you do to fill those voids when you don't have this connection? Like idle hands are the devil's playground. So you start doing other things. Like there was no infidelity or anything like that, but we're talking about like, looking at other things, whatever. So then there was like this division between us as well, and like fights and stuff between us because then it's like, okay, well, I'm not enough. Here I am, like being a mom. I'm also pregnant, like not feeling like the best, but I'm also like doing everything. Like I'm superwoman, but also dealing with like postpartum anxiety through the whole process. Like, yeah, I'm pregnant again. Like you should have happy hormones, but I still was going through this grief process, but also still trying to take care of somebody who's grieving at the same time. Like it was
Yeah,
a
we
lot.
were
And we
together, but it
couldn't,
was a disconnect for
yeah.
sure.
And
Just
we
doing what we could to survive our
like
family, get
barely
through.
surviving. Like we
And
have pictures and videos we look back at and we're like,
yeah,
do you
you
remember
were
that?
as happy about that, or I wasn't as
Yeah.
happy, or it's just, it was all about the kids too, or even like, just you don't remember
Yeah.
how, they were happy times, but they were just like, they weren't shared happiness of, oh, we
Yeah.
should be so happy because so much happened to where we had to move again, and
And
that's
start over. And
from
when we
nothing.
had to move because there was use and our last baby was a baby, we had to move with nothing. We had to start
We couldn't take
over.
anything with us.
We had to start over with everything. We had to throw out everything. We had to throw away furniture. We took beds. I
Our
think that was
beds,
it. Like we moved into our next house with a couch. And people look at where we're at now and they're like, oh my gosh, you have such a beautiful home. And I'm like, you don't know where we came from
yeah,
7 years ago.
for sure.
You don't know where we started off 7 years ago.
We
In 2018, we lost it all and had to start over. But we also, like, not only were going through things in our marriage and our life, but like through our whole family. Like, we went through restraining orders, like, but to be where we're at now, like, my dad lives with us now. Like, what? Like,
yeah,
you would not even
never
know.
see
Like, if
that.
you
Thank
knew
you
what
again,
happened in
bro.
2018 and you see where we're at now, like, the growth. But we've always had each other and we've always gone through it together. And what is different with us and other people is that we're willing to forgive one another. We're willing to let go of the things that happen. And things happen in between, like,
Yeah. And being
2018.
honest,
Like,
honest with each other, like, I'm not the talker, obviously. You see who talks the most, not even in a bad way, but like
yeah,
Sarah's the talker. So she'll, if there was an issue, then she would want to get it resolved right away and have that confrontation and come to it and get it over and done with. And I'm like, give me a second. I got to collect my thoughts. I got to say what I want to say. Because if I say I say it's not going to mean what I say, and it's not going to be what needs to be heard. So those type of things were learned and had to be, inside of me, and let her know, hey, honestly, I'm not ready for this conversation right now. Could we come back to it? And I'm not avoiding it. It's just the fact that I'm not ready for it, as ready as you are right now. So being honest with those things, and just growing to each other and growing with each other and understanding how each other
Yeah.
worked. And that dynamic, definitely, like I said, knowing that everything else around us is chaos. And even when the chaos tried to brew inside of us, we were like, we're not gonna allow that to
Yeah.
take over, because then that means destruction for everything, and we never, I've always told Sarah that we play for keeps. I play for keeps. And, the D word has never even been thrown around. It might even, say, you know, uh, leave or anything like that, or whatever it may come down to. But it was just like, that was never even a thought, because that would, there's no way that would even happen. The things that we've gone through and the things we're going to go through is forever,
Yeah.
and we're going to continue to work through them. Like, we made vows to each other. I told Sarah I would be a certain person, and I would become this person, and becoming a husband and a father and a man of God and all these things. Those are a lot. Those are some big shoes and some heavy shoulders to put upon yourself. And just to say that you'll do it is, um, easier said than done, because
Yeah.
putting in the work is a lot. Because coming with that are things that like I said, spiritually I told God I would do. Physically, I told Sarah that I would do to my children, promises that I made to them. All those things come into a fact, that you have to truly be a person of your word. And I love Sarah for that, because she truly is a person of her word, and she can, if she's going to do something and she says she's going to do it, she's going to do it. And that has taught me to do that as well, and help me. And the beautiful thing about us coming from two different dynamics, two different type of worlds, is that we're able to see both sides of it, the yin and the yang of it. Like, she might have had this and I had less, but that's where we're able to be strong together,
Right.
because like I said, I see something in her and she sees something in me, and we're able to help grow that, instead of push it away or suppress it, or
Yeah.
have those whatever you want to call them, like jealousy or anything like that. Just being honest with each other. And yeah, sometimes honesty is not the thing that is, that everybody has, but it's gonna come up some other way, and you don't want, I'm not a liar. Anytime I was, in the situation of being caught or found of doing anything that I told her I wouldn't do, I didn't lie about it. I was honest, and it hurt her, but the honesty is better than a lie. So that, yeah, we've been through a lot of things, but we have definitely grown and matured. We've been counseled. We've been everything. We've done
We
everything
went
to
through
do.
periods of like drinking. Like we even went through
Yeah,
years of
it
like
was
social
where it
drinking
wasn't
where
my niche, but it was like Sarah's, and it was like something that we needed to take the edge off of things. And it was like, here we are, we're responsible. We don't go out every weekend. We don't take our, we don't have somebody watching our kids, and we're getting lit and doing this every weekend, and somebody else watches our kids. Like, we, did things responsibly, but it was like occasional anniversary. Like, hey, let's have a
yeah.
drink and toast together. Cool. Somebody is watching our baby, so we can let loose, let our hair down. And then it became, hey, let's have a drink after dinner, or let's just, instead of it being something hard, it was like, let's just share a bottle of wine or something. And it was like, then it became, okay, now that we're doing this. And we had friends that would come around, and they had their old same
Yeah.
lifestyles.
And
That
it wasn't for us. And
oh,
it all it did was open up the door for like demons. That's all I could
more
say.
division.
Like
You leave
they
that
call
door.
it wine and spirits for a reason, because it literally opens
It
up
didn't do anything good for us.
spirits.
Like I said,
Like bring spirits in.
I truly didn't enjoy it. Like, it would take a lot for me to get drunk. That's just because it wasn't my vice. It wasn't, if I mixed, of course it was bad. But yeah, if we were just sipping on wine or sipping on beer all night or anything like that, or doing shots of whiskey, then yeah, I go all night. But
Yeah.
those type of things definitely were not part of the life. We thought that's what we wanted, but it wasn't,
Hmm.
because soon it showed and revealed the doors that we left open, and the realization of what happened, what is happening in our lives, what's happening to our children, what's happening in our marriage is just that, like we allowed those things to come in. So
We allowed it to get to a point of where of destruction, like almost destruction. Like we allowed things to come in to where it had to get to a point of like deconstruction for us to be like, hey, okay,
it's enough.
This is enough. And we had to change. I mean, it even got to the point where we're like, okay, it got to destruction. We're like, no more, we're good. And like rebuilding. And then to the point of where like we even went back to it and we're like, do you even feel a buzz? Like, do you feel anything?
And it's
felt
like
nothing but the hangover the next day. Like, didn't even feel a buzz. And I was like,
and
that was
thank God
God.
for that,
Like,
because
that was God.
you realize that that's not who you are. That's not the person that you built. And not that we're so perfect or anything like that, but you want to go forward. You want to be better. You know, you want to be better than that and give better to your family and stuff like that. So definitely was not our best moments, but we're human. We're not, we're just being candid about the life that we went through. Like, if you think about it, it was a pent up, there was loss, there was more loss, and then there was just
years. Yeah. Years of like,
it was just
almost like devastation and like
not taken care of.
Yeah. Like insecurity or like things that had been like going like almost like David said, like a crutch, like almost like something like a band-aid over a bullet wound is like, oh, let's try this. But really the only thing we ever needed was Jesus. And that's what we keep at the center. And a lot of people see us and we truly are, like when people meet us, they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are best friends, because we joke around and we laugh and I don't know, we've always been that way. Like we joke around.
My friends are my friends, my friends are her friends. Like I'm talking about like high school friends that are my friends since high school, and they meet us and they're like, yeah, your wife's amazing. She's awesome. What a awesome person. Like, yeah, she's my best friend too. And same with her, like her friends are like, your husband's gonna hang out with us? That's kind of weird. And then they're like, oh my gosh, he's so cool. It's just the way that we are. We don't, like I said, we're just always together and always have each other's backs. Doesn't mean that we don't have our ups and downs. Like I said, we know our limits and we know what we can, truly take and what's going there. But like where we're at now, if we could fast forward there, or do you want to talk about anything else? Like where we're at now, I believe is just like truly a testament of God and testament to like the fact of our faith and putting in, like truly having good communication, forgiveness, and true forgiveness, because you can't have things hidden in your heart. You have to be able to like let go. Like there are some things you would never forget, but you have to be able to let go and be willing to move on in order to grow. Forgiveness doesn't mean you give somebody a pass. It means you're freeing yourself from the pain. Most definitely. And our pastor said something that really stuck with me, and David repeated it the other day. He's like, when you've truly forgiven, you can talk about it without it hurting you. Yeah. And like even having this moment right now, like I can talk about our entire past and it doesn't hurt me. Before, I couldn't talk about like looking at other things, the insecurity. I couldn't talk about like, I've always been able to talk about domestic violence because I feel like a slap in the face, like you can get over that, that's fine. But the times that I was insecure, or even like it drove me at times like to a suicidal depression, like I couldn't talk about that before. But now I can talk about it because it's a testament to my life and it's a testament to our marriage. And never once did David leave my side. Like always did he always would try to pull me from the fire. He would save me from the fire. Like even when I wasn't myself, like he would pick up the phone and call our pastor. He would pray for me. He would do his best to be different, even if I wouldn't always recognize different. And I think that that's a big thing in our marriage, and why we have grown and gotten this far is because of God. Like we have kept God at the center, and because a good, strong marriage is people who are never willing to give up on each other. They're two good, strong, forgiving people who aren't going to give up on each other. And that's why we've gotten this far. And like I said, people look at us or like, oh my gosh, your house, oh my gosh, your children, oh my gosh. But it's like, you don't know what people go through to get here. Yeah. And this is just we're just talking marriage part. We're not talking about all the other struggles we've been through financially, job wise, anything like that. We are literally just talking marriage. And it's like,
this is why. This is why. Because we have chosen to continue to fight for each other, chosen to forgive each other, and
truly forgive and move on.
yeah.
Because, like Sarah was saying, touched on it. If you have truly forgiven somebody, then it doesn't hurt anymore. Like she said, it doesn't. You don't think about it
Mm-hmm.
anymore when it's brought up, because then you're like, because then that's a thought that takes carries you away to be like, oh wow, that really did hurt. Well, if you're truly forgiven, like Sarah said, it's for yourself and for not only the other person but for yourself. So yeah, of course, asking for forgiveness, and it's not I'm sorry, it's a true forgiveness, because seeing the person that you love being hurt or being at their lowest, and knowing that that's not the person that you see and you see better in them, is definitely the part where you're like, I can only cry out to God. I can only cry out to God, and He truly has saved us many times, and put me in check to be like, you know what, like, it's easier to bend than it is to break. And both of us have learned that. Sarah has
Yeah.
done that many times in our relationship and marriage towards me, and as well have I towards her. And it hasn't been the easiest thing, but it was definitely the right thing. And that it definitely was God, because I didn't want to do that at the time. I didn't want to, I wanted to break. And of course, she was already broken. So when something's already broken and you break, then there's nothing left there. So I had to hold on, and she had to hold on, and we had to be able to realize that obviously this person is down and I can't be down. Two people down means they're not getting up. So one person has to fight there, and it wasn't always just one sided to where I fought for her and she fought. We fought for each other, literally fought for each other, and it truly is a testament of where we're at now. And like I love my wife so much. She is my best friend. She is my everything. My wife. We're gonna grow old together. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna be having walkers together, whatever. We're gonna be talking on the intercom, like, get over here, girl, like, come make me some eggs. But it truly is like, we're forever. Like, this is a playing for keeps, and we built this because it wasn't something that we seen ourselves, and something that we desired to have, and it truly is a 16 years in the making, and is still running strong. Like I said, we're not perfect. That's what we said. All the candid things that we did say, but truly we are blessed beyond measure. We put God first in everything, and yes, we're not perfect. Um, that's why we need Jesus. That's why we go to church, because we still need to be fine tuned. We still need to be put on that potter's wheel and be molded into the beautiful craft that Jesus wants to make us. And having that and sharing that together is a beautiful thing. Being led by awesome leaders, having the surrounding of people that we have, our children, our core. We love them so
Mm-hmm.
much. They're always with us. They definitely bring out the best in us. They're the greatest gift to us besides each other, and we truly have embarked on this life to you know make the best of it. Things that we've done that I've never done in my life growing up, like going on vacations, or um, having a home, steady home, or even just the things that we've done. It's been together, and things that we've done for not a pat on the back or say, hey, you do this, but because we did it together. We got a saying whenever with friends or any family, like, if I got it, you got it. Like, because when we didn't have it, it was rough, and we realized that, if we're able to help people, and we have, and it hasn't been big things, it's been little things, but it's been out of our heart. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I think matters, is that we're able to do it out of our heart and out of a good place. And that means something to us. It's not to get accolades or a pat on the back or anything like that. It's just the fact that, like, hey, we've been there before, and we know what it's like to be like that, and not necessarily be proud of it, but just like not even ask for help, or people asking for help without asking for help, because you've been there and you're able to put that hand out there and extend that. So, you know, yes, like, we're just truly blessed, and beyond measures of still being together. The old saying is, marriage is what you put into it. So if you put pennies into your marriage, you're going to get pennies out of your marriage. But if you put silver dollars into your marriage, you're going to get silver dollars out of it. And that stuck with me. That was given to me by one of my good friends' dads, because I thought he had a beautiful marriage, and I asked him what was the key to it, and he said, what you put into your marriage is what you get out of it. And that is so true, because you have to obviously have a great foundation, which is God, and what you put into it is what you get out of it. And when both people are putting in 100% to 100%, you're going to get the best out of it. When people are giving their 50-50, that's only 100% together, and that's not together. And we realize that, and we give our 100%. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, you're going to get it all. And it's all love. And yeah, this was a lot. Like I said, I wasn't ready or prepared to share all those things that I did. But yeah, I think that, you know, I can truly say that I'm blessed to have this woman right here and to have my family. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't, with everything that we went through. I'm grateful that it went the way that it did, because it made us the people that we are today. Like I said, we're not defined by our past. We're bigger than that, and we're stronger than that, and stronger together now. Rodriguez strong and Rodriguez forever, and it's a beautiful legacy, beautiful family that we built together. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super grateful and glad that I was able to share these things with you guys. And thanks for listening. This is definitely a longer podcast than I expected.
Yeah.
You
And
got anything else, my love?
that's all I was gonna say. It's doesn't mean that everything's perfect, but it does mean that, like we work together through it, continually work together through it, and we have beautiful children, talented children, intelligent children, you know, that are, we've created a life for them to know like their worth. And I feel like that's where we've created that foundation within our home and in our marriage that it's just definitely something that we definitely have built together, and we've been through a lot to get to this point, and that's all. Like it's like I said, people see us and they just think like, oh, you know, I don't know. They just think like it's so perfect sometimes, or like it looks perfect sometimes, but the truth is like you don't see what goes on behind anybody's closed doors. And there's good days, there's bad days, but it's what you make of those good days and bad days, because you can always turn those around.
Yeah.
You can always turn anything around and make it a better day. And yeah, it's always great. Like my mom used to always say, like, start it here. Start here. When anybody would compliment her children, be like, oh, they're so talented. They're so beautiful. Yes, it started here. It started here. And I just think of that every single time. And I'm just like, I know that we broke chains of things that we seen growing up. And even though my parents were married for a long time, I know that they didn't always have like the most loving, kind marriage. Yeah, they were jokesters. They joke around, but like, there wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're beautiful, I love you, or anything like that. And it's like important or like affection. Like I was not a hugger majority of my life. So it's important for me to like not only receive affection, but give affection, like even to my kids, because I don't want them to grow up that way or like hear those things. Like you don't just have to hear that you're beautiful, but you also have to know that you're beautiful and that you're beautiful inside and out. Like your heart is beautiful, your mind is beautiful. That's very important to me for my children to know. And I think that's like a chain that has been broken um, in marriage. And I think that that's part of like the growth process and something that we've built. Like we've broken chains of things that we've seen growing up in both sides of our families growing up. And just the dynamic that we have compared to like ways that we were raised, or even our siblings or anything like that, you know, like my family has a lot of marriages that didn't last, or married, divorce, married, divorce, married, divorce. Like that was a big thing because it's like once you get bored or once they don't have enough money or because they're ugly now, like on to the next. That's not like how we operate. We've broken those chains to where it's like continued growth and continued movement. So I definitely think that it's something that um, it's just grown, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's good to be able to talk about. So yeah, that's all for today.